Nearly a million people cancelled their subscriptions.
Streaming giant Netflix suffered its biggest stock loss.
It's hard for most people to pay for all of the streaming services.
It's no secret that Netflix is getting destroyed. They've started losing subscribers for the first time. Their stock has crashed as much as 76%, and they're the 5th worst performing stock in the S&P 500. This is quite a turn of events from the 2010s, when Netflix was literally the best performing stock on the market, growing a mind-boggling 40x. This sudden change in performance doesn't really surprise me all that much. Every stock has raging bull markets and bear markets, and given the overall macroeconomic situation, it's not crazy that a high-flying stock like Netflix has cooled down substantially. But what is surprising to me is the public's reaction to said sell-off. Historically, the everyday person wasn't even aware of the financial or economical state of such companies. But thanks to social media, the average person is well aware of Netflix's situation, and they're not only happy about it, but it almost seems like they're rooting for it. What is Netflix doing in FANG? They're about to fall. Netflix is going to get dropped from the FANG acronym soon. If Netflix goes out of business, I hope I get my money back. Lol, Netflix sucks, and it's also run by Satanists. Aside from such comments on YouTube, there are entire threads on Reddit that are dedicated to trashing on Netflix. It appears that the public sentiment surrounding Netflix is almost as bad as the public sentiment surrounding Amazon or big banks. Unlike big banks though, Netflix was a community favorite not too long ago. So why does everyone suddenly despise Netflix? One of the top critiques that people make about Netflix is that their library of content just isn't that good anymore. But much of this was completely out of their control. When licensors like Disney and Paramount decide to start their own streaming services and make their content exclusive to their own platforms, there's really not much that Netflix can really do. Not to mention, even after losing some key partners, Netflix objectively has one of the largest streaming libraries in the world. As of April 2022, Netflix has 17,000 titles streaming globally. Now, you might be saying that just because they have so many titles does not mean that they're actually worth watching. And while that is true, I would argue that Netflix has more shows and movies that are worth watching than any other streaming service. In terms of shows, they've got Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Money Heist, Stranger Things, Squid Game, Manifest, Peaky Blinders, The 100, The Umbrella Academy, The Queen's Gambit, Cobra Kai, and BoJack Horseman, just to name a few. They've also got plenty of deep and thought-provoking documentaries like Icarus, The Ted Bundy Tapes, Athlete A, Dirty Money, The Greatest Events of World War II in Color, and Downfall: The Case Against Boeing. It's also not uncommon to find some of the most iconic movies of all time make their rounds through Netflix, like The Titanic, Gladiator, Inception, Interstellar, the James Bond movies, and so much more. So, objectively speaking, while not all content on Netflix is top of the line, there are hundreds of shows, movies, and documentaries that are worth watching. This is not something that you can say about any other streaming service. Whether it be Disney Plus or HBO Max, they usually only have a handful or maybe a dozen TV shows and movies that people really want to watch. With Disney Plus, for example, I know so many people who got the subscription just so they can watch The Mandalorian. Aside from already having a massive library of content, Netflix hasn't been shy when it comes to investing into well-performing originals. A perfect example of this was their budget for Season 4 of Stranger Things. Each episode of Season 4 cost Netflix $30 million. With a total of 9 episodes, Netflix literally spent $270 million on Season 4. That's literally more than the budget of Avatar 2. It also comes out to over $5,700 per second of screen time. And it's not just Stranger Things either. Netflix spent $9 million per episode for Sense8, $10 million per episode for The Witcher, $11 million per episode for The Get Down, and $13 million per episode for The Crown. So Netflix's content library is not garbage like many claim. Objectively speaking, it's actually the best in the world. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at this study. This study asked 4,000 US adults the following question: if you could only keep one streaming service, which one would it be? Unsurprisingly, Netflix won by a landslide, garnering 41% of the vote. Hulu came in second place at 21%, and HBO Max came in at 13%. But if it's not the content that's giving Netflix a bad rep, what is? After reading through dozens of Reddit threads and hundreds of YouTube comments, I came to realize that while people often blame Netflix's content, that's usually not the root of their frustration. By far, the biggest source of frustration seems to be Netflix's constantly increasing subscription fees. The lowest tier itself costs $10 per month, but no one actually wants this tier because you can't even stream in HD. You literally have to stream in 480p, which is completely unacceptable in 2022. Even the crappiest smartphones on the market have a higher resolution than 480p. So this tier does not suit the needs of anyone, and the only reason anyone gets this tier is to save money. Realistically, people need to at least spring for the standard tier to enjoy these shows and movies in a modern resolution. But that comes in at $15.50 per month or $186 per year. To make things worse, more people have 4K TVs than ever before thanks to how cheap they've gotten. You can literally get an 85-inch 4K TV for the same price as an iPhone 14 Pro Max. And it's not from RCA or Hitachi either, it's literally from Samsung. But while high-quality 4K TVs are more accessible than ever, it seems like Netflix's 4K streaming option is more inaccessible than ever, coming in at $20 per month. In just 5 years, your streaming subscription itself will end up costing more than your TV. Netflix is well aware of this, and one of their proposed solutions is introducing a cheaper tier that comes with ads. But it seems like this proposal has simply backfired on Netflix. To many, this move simply comes off as greedy and completely unnecessary. Netflix increasing their prices is nothing new though. This has been an ongoing phenomenon for nearly a decade, but historically no one really cared thanks to shared accounts. If you were sharing your premium Netflix account with 4 other people, a price increase from $15 per month to $20 per month doesn't really bother you. Before you were paying $3 a month and now you're paying $4 per month. Netflix has always been aware of this, but they didn't really care because their subscriber numbers were growing so fast. Cracking down on people sharing passwords was simply not a top priority historically. But with subscriptions starting to stagnate, Netflix has finally cracked down. Netflix has started charging people a fee if their account is consistently being used in more than one household. So more and more people have been forced to just get an account themselves, which means that their monthly fee jumps from like $3 or $4 per month to $20 per month. On an annual basis, that's literally a price hike of $200. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's fair to just blame Netflix for this. Just because they turned a blind eye to password sharing in the past does not mean that cracking down on password sharing is unreasonable. Nonetheless, it's also not surprising that so many people are salty about it. Now, you might be saying that $20 per month is not that bad, and I agree, it's not that bad. But it's not the Netflix fee alone that's triggering people. The problem is that you can't just have Netflix if you want to actually enjoy all of the most popular shows and movies. Even though Netflix still has the most diverse and desirable catalog, there are several TV shows and movies that are only available on other platforms. This wasn't that big of a problem when there were only 2 or 3 prominent streaming services. But now, everyone seems to have their own services. You've got Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney+, Prime Video, Paramount+, Discovery+, and Apple TV. Even if you just choose the top 5 streaming services, this adds up very quickly, especially if you get the top tier option for each one. Netflix is $20 per month, Hulu is $13 per month, HBO Max is $15 per month, Disney+ is $80 per year, and Amazon Prime is $140 per year. When you add all these up, you get $66 per month or $796 per year. And if you feel like this sounds familiar, that's because this is how much satellite TV providers like Dish and DirecTV charge. So in a sense, it feels like we've come full circle back to where we started. The reason that Netflix was so popular over the last decade was because it was the antithesis to regular television. Instead of being bloated with ads and infomercials, Netflix promised to offer the best titles whenever and wherever you wanted at a far cheaper price. But today, it seems like streaming has just become another version of television. The only advantage that streaming services have over traditional TV at this point is that you don't have to deal with ads for the same $60 to $70 price point. But with more and more streaming platforms offering ad-supported versions, this will probably change within the next several years. Honestly, this can only play out in 2 ways. Either these streaming services introduce ads to all of their plans, or they're gonna jack up the prices of their ad-free plans even more. And it's just a matter of time until these streaming services become indistinguishable from regular television, just with a modern twist. Instead of having to watch on your TV at a certain time, you can watch on any device at any time. But that's pretty much it. One trick that still works is the good old subscribe for a month and cancel trick. But streaming services are well aware of this as well. This will probably just lead to more shows being released at a pace of one episode per week instead of the whole season dropping at the same time. This way, they'll have a constant flow of content the entire year, and more people will be enticed to stay subscribed. And at that point, we'll truly be back to ground zero. As you would guess, the vast majority are not fans of the streaming evolution, and the person they blame is Netflix. Obviously, the situation is not as simple as Netflix being greedy, but they've become an easy target. So when people see headlines that Netflix is losing subscribers and that their stock is performing worse than ever, they can't help but feel that Netflix got what they deserved. Despite all the doomsday headlines, Netflix simply isn't going anywhere. So far, the entire subscriber loss is equivalent to a measly 0.5% of their total subscribers. And that's with every factor working against them. We've got the Russian sanctions, the post-COVID streaming purge, the recession, ludicrous inflation, and record-high economic fears. If all of these factors are only leading to Netflix losing 0.5% of their subscribers, this is clearly not that big of a deal for Netflix long term. This isn't to say that Netflix is done losing subscribers. They have a quarterly report coming out very soon, and they may very well report another loss in subscribers. For all I know, they could post subscriber losses for years to come. But eventually, the economy will turn around, and people will return to spending more money freely. And at that point, I can't see why Netflix won't just return to posting phenomenal numbers. We should also mention that Netflix never stopped posting phenomenal numbers in the first place. Yes, their subscriber numbers have started to stagnate, and their stock has gotten destroyed, but Netflix is still posting record profits to this day. And as they continue to crack down on password sharing and invest heavily into originals, I think this number will only go up in the long term. So while public sentiment surrounding Netflix is bad and it'll probably only get worse, I don't think the same thing can be said about Netflix stock, especially under $200 per share. But that's just what I think. Do you think Netflix is being unreasonable? Comment that down below. Also, drop a like if you're a fan of Stranger Things. And of course, consider checking out our Discord community to suggest future video ideas and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.